Hi, this is Sean D'Souza, and you're listening to the 3-Month Vacation Podcast. This podcast isn't some magic trick about how to work less. Instead, it's about how to really enjoy the work that you do and to enjoy your vacation time. Hi, it's Sean, and you're listening to the 3-Month Vacation. And if you're listening to this in sequence, then you're listening to the second part of this 100-year-old book called Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins. In the last episode, we looked at sampling, and sampling seems pretty simple, but opt-in, that was the magic trick in the sampling episode. So if you haven't listened to that, go back. It's pretty cool. The second thing was telling your full story, and telling your full story somehow seems to clash with today's topic, which is be specific. Well, what is telling your full story? Isn't it about being specific? Apparently not. Apparently, there is a difference. And today we're going to go on that journey, just that one chapter. There are lots of chapters. It's a very small book. It's about 100 pages. And today we're going to be specific. What would make a course sell out in 20 minutes instead of 3 days? One of the worst disasters at Psychotactics was the sales page / copywriting course. For years on end, we'd managed to sell out the courses, but then in 2010, only 4 seats were taken. What did we do wrong, we wondered. There are so many reasons why a course may go from being a hero to zero. Scarcity, the way you market, the size of the audience, all of it matters. Yet it was hard to ignore that we were missing one prominent element, namely specificity, or being specific. Be specific, that's the advice of Hopkins. Almost immediately, this chapter in the book launches into case studies. And it sounds like 100-year-old language, so bear with me. Here's what he says. At one time in the automobile business, there was a general impression that profits were excessive. One well-advised advertiser came out with this statement. Our profit is 9%. Then he cited actual costs on the hidden costs of a $1,500 car. And those costs amounted to $735 without including anything one could easily see. Notice that case study? Our profit is 9%. It's very hard to argue with it. It's a precise statement. You know exactly what it is. You think it's probably fair to have a 9% profit if you're running a business. And that's what specifics are all about. Hopkins goes on with yet another case study. Shaving soaps have been advertised as abundant lather, does not dry on the face, acts quickly, etc. One advertiser has as good a chance as the other to impress those claims. Then a new maker came into the field. It was a tremendously difficult field, for every customer had to take from someone else. He stated specific facts. He said, softens the beard in 1 minute. Maintains its creamy fullness for 10 minutes on the face. Perhaps never in advertising had there been a quicker and greater success in an equally difficult field. What Claude Hopkins is telling us is that specifics are almost a form of uniqueness. Terms like better, faster, nuttier meant very little to an audience over 100 years ago, and today audiences react in much the same way. It's not like they don't respond when things are vague, but the response can tend to be unpredictable. Trying to sell a product or a service or training, it's already sufficiently annoying. You have to do so many things, and so many things have to stack up. It's so much work, so much energy, that it makes little sense to lose a client just because there aren't any specifics. So why don't we put any specifics? As you can tell, specifics are scary for the person selling the product. Let's take the headline course, for instance. This is the Psychotactics headline course. And we say that you will be able to write 8 different types of headlines in under 10 minutes. For the article writing course, we promise that you can write magazine quality articles in under an hour. This is the same sort of scary standard that we put on the sales page course. It takes ages to put together a sales page, and what if there were a way to create a sales page in under 3 days? So as soon as you put these promises together, it's like a contract that you're making between you and the client. You're saying, this is going to happen when that happens. It's like a train leaving a station and saying, at 11:03 p.m., it's going to reach Nagano. That's a big contract to make, but Japanese trains do it all the time. They reach exactly on time. And that's because they've made a contract with their clients. And this is very scary for us. We can't seem to nail down what we need to do. Maybe you can't take an entire sequence, like maybe an entire course or an entire consulting session or whatever it is you're selling, maybe a book or an info product, and maybe you can't promise everything. So start with one section. What can you control? And be specific about that and start with that. And then maybe you can use that part, just that section, as a bonus when you're selling the product. So maybe the main product doesn't make this very ultra hyper specific promise, but that tiny bit which you're giving out as a bonus, that could make the promise. And yes, that's enough. That's enough for the client to go, oh yeah, I can see the specifics there. But as you go along, you want to build so that everything adds up to this train reaching Nagano Station at 11:03, exactly on the dot. Now, when we sell, specifics are only one part of it. You have to have good pre-sale, you have to have scarcity, you have to have a lot of stuff. However, let's try and nail down some specifics. And being specific doesn't just apply to the product or service. Take the example of black belt presentations. It's a very precise course. It helps you work through designing a presentation, crowd control, and the structure of the presentation. Yet, what does black belt mean to you? Probably nothing, right? And the same ungainliness applies to a book series on storytelling. Again, it's a good product, but it's being let down by a hurried launch. On the other hand, a name like Chaos Planning pushes through with instant specificity. Salesmanship in print is very expensive, says Hopkins. Every word you use may cost $10 to insert. Loose talk matters little. When you're talking to millions at enormous cost, the weight of your claims is important. Now, Hopkins couldn't have seen the internet coming. He couldn't have foretold that we don't pay $10 per word. But he did realize that specifics are the way to go. His book, Scientific Advertising, and especially the delightful My Life in Advertising, they're both treats to read. It gives you a clear sense of how things were and how they haven't changed very much when it comes to human psychology. But it's also enjoyable in the sense that he talks about tungsten lamps, about carbon lamps, about shaving soaps, about evaporated milk. It's like getting in a time machine and running into all these interesting terms, very unusual English at times, but extremely sound psychology and knowledge. Which is to say that if you ever get tired of the slightly ridiculous drone that you hear on the internet of hustle, 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 well, you might want to step into the past over a cup of coffee and a cake, small piece of cake, and then read the wisdom of yesteryear as the world hurries by. So that brings us to the end of this podcast. This one's a short one because it was a continuation from the last one. You might want to listen to them back to back anyway. So what did we cover in last time's podcast? We started out with sampling, and we looked at this unusual description of sampling, which isn't just that sampling is a sample or a bit from the whole, like a tiny piece of cheese from the whole piece of cheese. but also that you can have like a big product, like say the article writing course, and then you have a smaller product, which is the headline course, and then you have a smaller product, which is outlining as a booklet. And what happens is that one sample, the smaller booklet, becomes the first part, like the starter for the main meal. So you're also looking at sampling from a different perspective. And that when you have a meetup, for instance, and you think, oh, only 3 people came, well, those 3 people become candidates for something like a 1-day workshop. They become candidates for your 3-day workshop. Every time we do these things, we start to feel bad about how things didn't turn out our way, but they're all samples and they're all reducing the risk, and that's what you have to focus on. And opt-in, I mean, that almost disappears in that whole topic of sampling, but getting people to opt in is both important and unimportant. There are certain things like articles or certain things like going to the restaurant and getting a little sample of something without having to opt in. Those are cool, but there are other things where you have to opt in. And what you'll find is when people make a commitment, however small the commitment, it makes a big difference. At this very moment, we're recording a series on how to start up. It's a webinar series. It's been conducted live over 6-7 weeks. And what happened was someone asked for a transcript. Now, not all transcripts are ideal. There are typos in the transcripts and stuff. And what we did was we said we have the transcript and who would like to read it and who would like to fix some of the typos. And people had to opt in. They had to opt in to get the transcript, and if they chose to do so, fix some of the typos. But the opt-in, that was important. If we just give it away, then often there is no value. So you want to make sure that you have a bit of a balance of both. So that was the first thing. And the second thing was telling your full story. And if you've been buying Apple products, you probably know what I'm about to say, which is how they start describing all of these little parts of the computer and how it works and how fast it goes and what it does. And this is similar to that sofa thing that we talked about, where we were describing the legs and the foam and the everything in great detail. And I just got a bag the other day from Peak Design. And it's just a backpack. It's a 20-liter backpack. And it's got all these folders. I've got a little booklet in my hand here, which is the access and the flexi fold and the mag latch and the organization and the comfort and security. And all of that, it's like a little booklet. And this increases the value of the product because I use it better. And I also describe it better and I have greater value for it. But even at the time of buying it, all of that description creates an intensity. It's the full story that I want to know before I buy the product. Finally, we zone into today's topic, which is being specific. And this is like the train to Nagano. You're on the bullet train, the Shinkansen, and you're headed from Hiroshima to Nagano. It's 752.9 kilometers. And you have to reach at 11:03. And that's specific. That's clearly specific. And maybe you can't promise that level of specificity with whatever you're doing, so then take a little bit of it. Put that as part of your bonus, and what you can do is slightly get away with it for the short term. As you improve your product, as you improve your workshop, as you improve your consulting or whatever it is you're doing, then you can come back and you can put more specifics. If you already have a product like a bag or a microphone or a hard disk and you're selling that, well, you already have specifics in place. So it's much easier to guarantee what the person is getting. But it's the other stuff that's really vague, where you say, you will increase the clients or you will improve the profits. That's all vague and it's very hard to sell. And that brings us to the end of this podcast. Let's find out what's happening in Psychotech land. To be very specific, on the 18th of April, you're going to be able to buy the uniqueness course, but you have to be on the waiting list. We only sell 25 copies. So you have to go to psychotactics.com/U for uniqueness, and goodies. So U goodies, psychotactics.com/U goodies. And then on the 16th of May, it's pre-sale. Again, the point is that you want to go and get on the waiting list. Otherwise, you don't get a notification. And that's really the two products that we have for April and May, on the 18th of April, 16th of May. And I could say they're both extremely good products, but that's not being specific, is it? The uniqueness course shows you how to create a uniqueness that your competitors cannot copy, cannot destroy. That's being specific. The pre-sale course shows you how to build and pre-sell when you probably don't even have any clients. It shows you the story of Joseph Pilates, who started out from absolutely nothing. He was an immigrant to the US and really struggling before he started to work out this whole pre-sale method. So I had to take a bit of my own advice instead of just saying they're really good courses. Now you have the specifics. And as you can tell, you've instantly perked your ears up as you're listening to it. And if you're not up for these courses or you already have them, you might want to look at psychotactics.com/tiny. And in that you'll find tinier products that help you along the way. And each one of them gets you from point A to point B. Go to that page, psychotactics.com/tiny, and judge for yourself. That's pretty much it from a hot summer's afternoon. I'll say bye for now. Bye-bye. Still listening? One of the things that we've used over the years when we're having workshops is the time of the workshop. So we never say the workshop's going to start at 9 o'clock. We have an odd timing, which is 9:03 a.m. And that is instantly something that people pay attention to. We've had one person show up late for a workshop, maybe two. Over all of these years, we've had two people. So infrequent that I know who they are and they probably know who they are as well and are listening to this podcast. That's how specifics work, and that's why our workshops always start on time. We never wait for anybody. It always starts on time. It's something you might want to take and you might want to stick to, because latecomers, they're not good for your business. They're not good for the people who've made that effort to come on time, to be there early, in fact. Even if there's been a storm, even if there's been any kind of situation, we start on time. Why? Because everyone else had the same storm. Everyone else deals with the same traffic. There's no special storm for an individual, so you always start on time. That's it for now. I'll see you in 5000 BC. Bye for now.